important here is you now go out to do the check up for the schools. I've put a very general point that check out the school that offer similar or related programs. This point is very important because sometimes we don't really get exactly the schools that offer the same program, but you may find related programs. And it is important here. I've put the word in red here that do your groundwork. This one, what I mean is that it doesn't stop at just checking the schools. It is very important here to check that these schools have got professors. These schools have got programs. Some of them could be research-based, others could be theory-based. And if the program is research-based, it is important to check what the research is, current research is being done by that school around the department that you want to join. It is very important, check what the professors in that department are doing. That is the point number 3. Check what they are doing. Try to pick some professors whose work is closely aligned with what you are doing, and then make effort of reading some of them. Read some of the works of those professors to understand what they are doing, because if the work you are going to do or the study program you really want to join has got a research element, you will want to identify with the person who's going to supervise your work. And most of the schools where there's a research element in your master's or a PhD program, they actually, some of them require that you have a supervisor as a prerequisite requirement before you are given an admission. Some of them require that you write to the professor, express interest in working with him before actually you submit an application. He has to say, yes, I will supervise you before you move forward to submitting a formal application admission. And in this process, normally professors are very busy people. They don't have really time to read your email that are having very general story. Like one says, you want me to supervise you for a period of no less than 2 years, but you want to spend 15 minutes going through my work and claim you have understood my work. That is not enough. You really need to have gone through his work, understand it well, and find a point that actually you think challenges his work or either introduces a new perspective or dimension to his work. Then reach out to him. Some of them emails may not be answered that fast. If they have contacts online, you can call. Like an example is that professors in US and Canada, most of them are super busy. They rarely reply to emails. You may have to actually call them. So you really need to do that. Calling, they'll pick, and you can fix an appointment once you call. They will probably read your email after that. And in the event that the program does not require that you conduct the supervisor first before anything that, then the most important thing is check all the admission requirements. Take the admission requirement and ensure that you list down and meet all of them. One of the things that is asked at every school whenever you seek admission application is this thing called a recommendation letter. Not a letter, letters. They ask for recommendation letters. Most schools ask for 2, some ask for 3. These recommendation letters, they may not tell you who's supposed to recommend you, but being an academic opportunity that you are seeking for, one of the strongest recommendation letters that is not asked directly but is actually expected is the person who has taught you in your undergraduate level. If your undergraduate study program has an honors project, the supervisor who supervised you during that work is the best person to write a recommendation letter. Another important person from your school can write you a good recommendation letter is a person, like if, let's say, if you are in Rwanda, LU Rwanda, if you can get your faculty dean to write you a recommendation letter, his position is normally a very strong position. And I want to underline a point here. Remember, the faculty dean won't just write a letter. You really need to be an exceptional student. I want to say that all of us are very exceptional. I'm not saying that there's people who are not exceptional. But what I'm saying is that you need to come forward. Don't spend your time away unknown to your faculty dean, and then you show up last minute, sending an email after you've left ALU that I want you to write me a recommendation letter. He can't remember who you are. He can't remember what to say about you because he doesn't know you. If you have interest in transition to a graduate program and probably you are in midway or at the beginning level of your undergraduate study program or towards the end, this is the time for you to make close connection with the faculty director, with your faculty dean, who actually you should express to him that you intend to do your graduate studies in a near future, and most importantly, let him know who you are. Let him know who you are through actions. Demonstrate your leadership potential through taking initiative in the school so that you can be remembered of something that you did. That is very important. And I've repeated the point I mentioned here, that meet all the admission requirements. One of the criteria of minimizing the application that goes through schools for the limited slots is normally completeness of the application. If they have said they need 3 recommendation letters, please ensure that you have 3 recommendation letters. If they say that they have a request, they have requested that you ask your former school to submit your transcripts, it's your duty to follow through with your school to ensure the transcripts are submitted. Don't ignore that one. Don't think that once you send an email to academic region, it is his duty to submit. It is your duty to follow through to ensure that those requirements are submitted. And then the last point I want to mention here is your personal statement is a marketing and selling tool. I've put in red on this slide because it is actually a summary of what you really are. Most of us, if not all of us, when we see a job, want to apply for a job, we want to take probably 15 minutes to quickly piece together an application cover letter and a CV and submit. But you want to stay at that job for something like 4 years, 5 years, and probably grow in that role if given a chance. But I want to ask a question. If you really want that job, do you think really 15 minutes is enough? I'm asking the session attendants here. Do you think, I'll ask Zakaria, do you think really 15 minutes is enough for you to piece together a cover letter and a CV? We always say that you probably need to do some groundwork. Take your time, go through the job description, and then look at your skill set that you have, and then ensure that you list the skills in the CV, your accomplishments in the CV that are closely matched with the role. And in the application letter, that half-a-page letter, ensure that you are able to capture what actually the person going to read 1,000 application cover letters is looking for. Someone needs to read that half a page to determine whether you should look at your CV or not. You can't start with general statements which you simply changed because you simply change the reference title heading of the job, then you submit. No, you really need to do your groundwork. I wanted to say here that some schools, for the personal statement, some schools will have a very general personal statement. They simply say, submit a personal statement. In such a case, it's your duty to check online, and not check online, to actually write a personal statement. I've said check online because some schools will say, submit a personal statement. When you go to the school's website and check personal statements for the University of California, Berkeley, an example, you will see some departments have given tips on what their personal statement will need to have. It is important to try sometimes check out that one. Does this particular school expect me? You may argue and say, the school, but I was not told that this is the format they wanted. That someone asked you a question. But if you really wanted to go to University of California, Berkeley, one of the things supposed to ideally go through is to have gone to the university website, check the admissions process, check any helpful tips or information that may be general on the school's website. You see that. So you may check out that one. If a general one is normally tricky because it doesn't tell you what items you need to include. But on the last point, I'll mention what actually goes into a good personal statement. The second point I've said, in other applications, directions are given on what actually should include. Like for instance, this one I picked from a school which was saying, submit a personal statement. Then they are saying, in your personal statement, state or explain why the choice of the study program you want to study and why this school, how the choice of the program influences your career trajectory. In this case, you see that there are prompts in the personal statements writing that they are giving you a hint of what they really want you to have. So in response to this, you have to ensure that actually you state clearly why that program is important to you, why that program informs your future career interest, and why that particular school. And that point is very important. When talking about that particular school, sometimes you need to know the department you are going to, what resources they have, what the supervisors, the professors they have. Quoting some research work, breakthrough research works, and names of some professors in some department that you want to join in the personal statement demonstrates that you have done your groundwork. If you write and say that I want to work with Professor so and so in this department because of his exceptional leadership in research in this area that I want to join because it is aligned with my long-range career interests, it demonstrates that you understand what you've done some work to understand what departments, what each professor and what the school stands out for. And then I've put the third point that in other schools and programs, applicants are asked to respond to specific application questions. This is common in Canadian schools. You find that the personal statement is a long 3-page document, but they're asking each question, which program do you want to study? List them in priority program 1, the second, and the third. Then the second question they ask there, who have you conducted any person, any professor in the department? If you say yes, they say give their names and reasons why you want to work with them. Then they go down there, give any prior experience you have with the research and example. And then why are you applying to this school? So you find out that such is actually a personal statement with directions on answering specific questions. That is normally easy. It gives much guidance. And then I've said in some other programs, they include actually leadership dimension. They ask you to demonstrate something beyond academics. And this one is normally very important in programs where they have financial aid, where they have some scholarships that they want to, you might want to apply. Scholarships, normally they want someone who has something more than just academic excellence. So in summary, this last slide I've put here, that a good personal statement describes your educational objective, and it should address these 5 points. It should address why you are applying for the program of choice. It should address how your study program of choice will relate to your long-range career objectives. This one is very important. You really have to state where you are going, where you are coming from, and how the program actually sits as a link between where you are coming from and where you are going. You can't say that you want to specialize in wildlife conservation as your career interest, but you are applying for a master's in divinity and heavenly studies. Those ones are not related, and it leaves many questions. Exactly how do these things relate? We have a few slots we want to give to someone whose the opportunity will be relevant to him, not just anybody. And then the third point here is what personal non-academic qualities you will contribute to the learning environment in your program. Some of this one will come from your internships. Your internship brings some attribute, your leadership that you have held at school. And leadership here, I say, is not necessarily formal student leadership. The exceptional initiatives you have taken at ALU or ALC, those initiatives you might want to bring them forth as non-academic attributes that you have. You might be having some sporting skills, and you have identified that the school you're applying to takes that particular sport seriously. That could be an attribute that you want to sell to that school. And then the second last point here is, what prior experience do you have with respect to your chosen program? I want to say that when people change programs from undergraduate to graduate school, sometimes if you did computer science, and you want to apply for a master's in computer science, selling that straight line that you have prior experience in computing from your honors degree, it is actually a demonstration of experience you have in that very particular domain. Another thing could be, you have gone maybe to work a bit, you have done your internships, you have taken initiatives that build skills around the program that you want to specialize in. Ensure that those ones are actually clearly addressed in your personal statement. And then lastly, the last point, that specifically why you want to attend the school, the program of choice you're applying to. Why that particular school? That point normally comes up as the last paragraph of your personal statement. Why are you applying to this particular school? You have to be categorical and say why that school. Why not a school in Rwanda and you are applying to Makerere University in Uganda? Makerere University want to hear that there is something exceptional they have that attracts you to them. Maybe they are professors, maybe they are research leadership in the area you want to join, or maybe it's the department or a faculty that you want to join because the resources they have will give you actually a platform to explore and to achieve what you want to achieve in the graduate school. You can't just go to any school. Those ones, the people who specifically speaks about the school, it demonstrates they have done their groundwork and they stand a better chance to be accepted than a general applicant. At this point, I want to be able to stop. There are many things we can talk about, but at this point, I want to stop at this point. And if there is any question, I will hand over the session to Ash. And if there's any question, we'll answer as we move on. Hello?
Hello?
Okay.
Sorry, Fhazhil. Yeah, I'm recording the webinar, so I couldn't unmute myself.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I've finished the presentation, and if there is any question, I will have to answer. You can have a question maybe about general, or if you are general graduate school application, or specific to the ones that have scholarship. Scholarships require some extra requirements, and it's very important that you really address those specific requirements.
Definitely, thank you for setting that as a conversation starter. So I definitely would recommend the students, the participants that we have online, to ask questions if they have any. But so we'll pause for a moment and see if anybody has a question. But if they don't, first of all, I would like to hear from you about what your understanding, like tips, or what your understanding is for, like, what should students keep in mind around the different financial aids that are available. I feel like a lot of students only bank on scholarships. However, I know that there are other ways of also securing financial aid. So I'm not sure if you would be the right person to share information on that, but if you can, it'll be great. And or we can also just take a question. If someone has a burning question, we can just start off with that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ash, for that comment. I think I'll make a comment on it as we wait for the question from the attendant. Okay, I know some general information about full scholarships, and also some information about other financial aid programs that may not be full scholarships, but they turn out they're even more rewarding, and they turn out they actually cover more than some of the explicit scholarships that we search online. An example of full scholarships that probably we know is like MasterCard Foundation Scholarship. Such are full scholarships, and they are normally very highly competitive. because the information is in the public domain. Fulbright scholarships, such scholarships are, the information is in public domain, and they turn out to be very competitive because they'll attract very many people. Like if you look at Commonwealth scholarship, for instance, attracting applicants for 47 countries around the world. A country like where you have a country like India raise something like a million applicants for that particular position, for that particular single slot that is available. So you realize full scholarships could be very competitive. And if you go out looking for full scholarships alone without actually having a skill to explore other financial aid programs, it may turn out limiting because you might find yourself you have gone for 2 years of back-to-back looking for opportunities, but you've not gotten one. One that I want to mention is normally the financial aid programs that are resident in the schools. These programs in the schools, this is not public domain information. This information, sometimes you can even find yourself going to a school, you want to pay school fees, only when you get there you realize that actually, once you are admitted to that particular department, you don't pay the school, you don't pay, you are paid some money. Like I went to a school for the masters on a full scholarship, and when I got there, I realized the department that I joined, by being accepted in that department, it meant that I'm actually paid for. My school fees is paid for, and actually I'm supposed to be paid some money every month from the department that I joined. So I didn't have this information, and it turned out that actually my scholarship that I went to, full scholarship I went with, it actually did not pay my tuition fee. It was covered by the department. So these particular programs require you that actually whenever you are checking out, go to the university website, check the information very keenly, and the most interesting thing that these universities, you'll find that a professor, if you check, they have the names of professors. If you go to that section, you will see, you can check. You see he has the students have graduated from him and the current students he's supervising at the moment. One of the easiest thing you can do, because students are easy to reply than the professors, you will find that these students have the emails. You can get their emails. Some of them, if you know how to network, you may fail to get the email. It's not in public domain, but you check their papers they have written and published, and you find the papers that have their emails. You can pick that email. You find even the paper they have published, they are first authors, and it has the phone number. Another way you can even check, you find that you can easily connect with that person on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, you need to know how to network, how to request a connection without just clicking. Once you are able to get a connection, or whether it's email is normally prompt, I can share my experience. I've written to students in numerous schools, and I've always gotten response within the same day of writing to them. And students give the best information. You ask, I'm interested in joining this particular department in which you are studying under this professor. I want to know whether he has funding or whether he accepts students every year. And then the student is very frank to you that, okay, I'm here, he supports my research. And normally, if you join here, you don't have to have school fees. It will be covered. You will even be given some tutorial fellow role, which will actually pay you some living style. You see, that, and you even get information that actually he accepts students every year. In other words, you have information that actually if you apply, you will likely be accepted if you meet his top tier students he's seeking, because he accepts them every year. That is an example of the financial aid that is actually resident in the school. And then beside that one, there are normally other financial aid programs that are normally not in the schools, but they are normally external organizations that provide funding. These ones, it actually boils down to how good you are in searching for information. There are a lot of programs that are not academic, but they fund academic study. For instance, you'll find a program like a women leadership and entrepreneurship program that funds the development and growth of women in entrepreneurship and leadership. And you find that actually in their work, they finance some young women who want to pursue graduate studies. I was in a research group where I had a colleague of mine was doing a PhD from Rwanda. She was actually on a program which is funded by an external organization that funds women empowerment. So that is another program. You need to search for information. You need to expand sometimes just how to use the internet, become the good searching point. General opportunities, like some people start with general searching. Funding programs for advancing graduate education. You will find there are actually other non-academic programs, funding opportunities that are not resident in schools, but that are external to schools. So that is the little I know about financial aid opportunities. If there is a question, please.
Thank you for sharing, Fhazhil. I think that's some great strategies. Even I didn't know most of them, so I think I'm sure it's helpful for students. Opening up to questions, if anybody has any specific questions or if you'd like Fhazhil to elaborate on any specific point, this is the time to ask that. No questions? If you can let us know in the chat that you have no questions, that would be helpful for us to know.
Oh, hi. Thank you again, Fhazhil, for the information. I just unmuted my mic because I don't want to keep quiet. I know it's a very crucial information, and it's something that I got used to when I started the process like 2-3 months ago. And these are exactly what students have been telling me and some things that people have been sharing with me. And again, thank you for that. And I'm sure people will won't take it lightly. And it's a very crucial information during this process. But when I was thinking about this session, I was thinking more of like Q&A, not necessarily in the process of application, but rather when in terms of getting help from career dev in the process, regards to some of the documents that we need to provide. And I've been having some conversations with Patricia. I don't know if it's the right session for asking those kind of questions, but yeah, regarding the whole session, thank you, Fhazhil.
Thank you for asking, Edosa. Regarding the kind of like questions you as well had, George was supposed to be joining the session, but unfortunately he was on a call, and I don't think he'll be joining us. But still, the questions can be taken up with him, and then or even anyone on the team on the call, and then we'll be able to respond to your questions.
Yeah, definitely. You can definitely ask, and with our best knowledge, we can point you in the right direction. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have, whether it's regarding the process, the support that we have, or whether it's for Fhazhil around graduate school applications directly. Please feel free.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
I was going to make a comment to what Zakaria was saying. Yeah, it is documentation is really very important, and if you are doing writing, if the application has some writing aspect of it, normally I know most of these schools you initiate you can initiate admission now, and then you realize you check, you see that you have up to something like maybe 31st of December to have completed the application. But normally you will have checked it through, and you will have seen all the documents that are asking you to submit them. Mostly, like if you're applying to European schools or North American schools, find that they are actually right now open for September 2021 intake, and the application closes. Some of them close in December, others close around 15th of January. You have a window of 3 to 4 months to furnish all the documentation. This is normally the window. Don't rush in a hurry to start to force to submit documents unless you are sure that the school does review on rolling basis. The school that do review on rolling basis, what they do is that as the application come in, they start reviewing them. But But most of the schools, like I see some of the schools that I've interacted with, like the University of Toronto, like McGill University, like University of British Columbia in Canada, they actually don't review anything until all the submissions have been done and the deadline for submission is passed. That's when they start reviewing. So in such a case, it doesn't give you an advantage of rushing to submit the work in October when you will have spent your time to ensure that each of the finest details are met. An example is this. When you write essays, if there are essays, ensure that you have given your reviewers enough time for them to go through your essays to give you feedback. Sometimes when we write, we think we have written the best, but written work is subject to actually under-communicating or misrepresenting what we think we are actually selling. What we are actually selling. Give someone, remember you're not writing for yourself, you are writing for somebody. If you're writing for somebody who is actually going to review your work and determine your fate, ensure there's a third party. Let some people go through your work, and if they say in 300 words, such simple requirements, you never know. Ensure that your work is gone through by people who can help you to revise until you meet the word limit, and ensure the message you intended to communicate actually is communicated. Relevant information, ensure you answer the question I asked. That one will help you, go through some of there are stages of review where someone is within the first stage of review are being dropped because one document is missing. Some of these scholarships which are actually going for, like, let me give an example of MasterCard Foundation Scholarship, which require you to demonstrate that you are financially needy. Financially needy. One of the things you need to demonstrate this is through if you have parents who are working and earning very little, their bank statements. But you ignore that one and then you submit without. Or if their bank statement cannot be sourced, a payslip for your parents, if it's only one who is working and the other is not working, is something called an affidavit. Someone to take to swear, to take an affidavit before this. I think there are lawyers who do that. That actually she or he does not have any formal income and any formal estimable income and is not able to pay your school fees. Such letter require you to spend some time, look for some amount of money, like $20 to pay to pay a lawyer to do that. To do that on behalf of your parent, or your parent to do that for you. So spend your time and ensure that you meet all the finest of the required documents. Don't leave anything up hanging when it turns out that actually there are 10 other people who met the same requirement, but that one person who furnished enough information, undoubtable information, is the one who got the scholarship. And lastly, there is this point of recommendation letters. Some of you guys want to ask for your friend to write a recommendation letter. The weight of a recommendation letter matters, and the authority of the letter depends on the person writing it. If Ash writes you a recommendation letter today, or Patricia writes you a recommendation letter today, that is very important to Immaculate, as compared to Zachariah writing for you a recommendation letter today. Actually, personally, I have had occasions when I'm receiving recommendation letters on behalf of applicants, and I've turned it down such that, no, Zachariah, you can't tell me that Immaculate was your classmate. And by being a classmate, you have the authority to write her recommendation letter. I know you'll be biased as a friend. You will not give an objective recommendation for her. Okay?
Thank you for that information, Fhazhil. I definitely agree with what you've said. I want to go back to also what Idosa was asking around. I think you had questions around some processes, right? So please do ask that.
All right, thank you, Fhazhil, for the pointers, and I think it's very crucial. So I've gone through the process, most of the things we've mentioned regarding the recommendations. I've finished my personal statements, but I'm in the process of sending it to people for reviews. I've already identified my recommenders and I've already informed them. I've finished my college list. I'm in the process of taking the TOEFL exam and the GRE in weeks' time, and I'm kind of ahead in the process. I am finishing some things. You're right, and some of the college actually have the rolling basis, while some of them have we'll start reviewing the applications as soon as the application actually closes. And I'm glad you mentioned University of British Columbia or McGill, which are on my list. But I want to ask regarding some of the required documents that we need to provide. And one of the documents is the transcript, right? And I know the transcript we use at AU is specifically the scale, the grading scale is a bit different from the one they usually accept. And I was asking Patricia about this specifically, and I was also trying to communicate with the schools on how this thing actually works. They were explicitly mentioning that scales like this should be translated or like converted into their scale, which is usually the 4.0 scale, mostly in the US. So regarding that, I just wanna like know how probably the school will help us in this. I don't know if it's translation or how it would even work with the grading system or the grading scale we have.
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe I can answer that a bit, Fhazhil, and then you can add comments. Is that okay? I think it's okay.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that. So, I think so. We haven't reached in our support with career development department. We haven't reached a point where we offer that specific support. Something that I would suggest that you do, and I recommend that you do is you can speak with either the alumni coordinator or you can speak with an any ALU alumni, whoever you feel is the right person to speak to, especially if they're studying in the region that you're planning on applying to. So if the case is any North American university, then you might want to check if there are any ALU alumni who are currently in North America studying. And I think what that will do is that will help you understand the conversion. Otherwise, for anything that's transcripts related, the best team to contact is the registrar's office at ALU and ALC. However, for some specific support in ALC, you probably would also need to contact GCU. But if in case it's in Rwanda, you just need to contact the registrar's office and they should be able to guide you better.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ash, for that. I can add a comment on that. Yes, thank you so much, Zachariah, for raising that. Actually, yes, most of those schools, you find where there is mismatch or differences in our system, they require that you do translation. And sometimes you find that the school may not have had a student who left your school to go to that particular country, then you become like the first case. And most of these things, if you check the school, some of the schools, like I think the one you've mentioned, if you check on the website, you will see that they have translation equivalent. I can't confirm this. I cannot confirm this. You find they actually have self-support. They have your own self-support translation of your grade for your country. Though some countries are not listed. But that is not enough. That just gives you a hint. It allows them to actually make what we call preliminary decision, but it's upon you to make effort to follow up with your school to ensure that if translations is required, is submitted. Last important point to mention is this. Normally, communication is one of the most important tools. Knowing how to communicate to ensure that you don't pass as a person who is flooding a lot of emails to the schools you are writing to, you are applying to, can actually help you solve a lot of problems. One of the things is that you will go through, sift through the processes, and you realize that actually at the school level where you are applying, there are administrators with their emails on the website there. And sometimes they are actually more responsive than the person who is in the admissions office, because admission office deal with large number of applicants. Sometimes just writing an email to them, some of them, and I know in most of those countries, like Canada is one of the best examples, countries that I have seen. People actually respond to emails factually with the information that you need without pointing directly that check that website, check that this link. No, someone will give information that I'm applying to this school, I'm from a country, we're using this system. I'm at loss as how I can go about translating this. You find that in the admissions office or someone even beyond that will actually root through and you will be able to be answered. It helps you sometimes even go, like you find that you can be admitted without actually having to go through formal translation and submission. One of the things I've seen that people who do communication have been able to navigate is this thing of admission application fee. I've just gone overboard beyond the document to mention that you find you are struggling raising $120, $150 as admission application fee. And if you check very keenly and you drop an email to the admissions or to a school, then you find that they have exemptions. Like I have seen applications go through some school, someone is going through GRE process in the US, only to turn out that actually you could easily have been exempted on some conditions. So those kind of things, like I know currently some ALU student who has been admitted to a program where GRE is a requirement, but she was actually exempted from that because she wrote, and she asked me, okay, write and seek, trying, you lose nothing. Write to them and ask if you can be given exemption, because in the country where you are, you can't get it done within the shortest time that you are seeking admission. She was exempted. So those are some of the things you can do. Documentation is the same. Canadian schools, they require that your transcripts are sent in a sealed envelope. But if you write to them very keenly, you'll find that some cases they tell you that where it is difficult, we'll ask you to come with the transcripts on the day of reporting to school, or if not, mail them in person, collect them, and then mail them. In such a case, it is better to go to your high school or to your former school, collect the transcript, put in the envelope, and give the DHL to mail them, you mail them yourself than actually waiting for the school and say that some documents were never actually delivered on time. So always try to communicate, try to write to the school, to administrators of the school, and ask where you can get some leverage, where you can get some exemption, where you can get more information on this translation and so forth.
Thank you for bringing that point. That was actually the second thing on the questions that I have. And in regards to what Arsha has mentioned, that this matter might concern the registrar, that was just like a question that I wanted to ask. And as a support team, I think one of the ways that you can support us, okay, let me speak for myself, like support me as a student is by bridging this gap now, right? For example, like I have an application that I'm about to submit in a week. I've reached out to the school, the registrar, but haven't gotten a response yet. Things like what Fhazhil just mentioned about the application fees, application waivers. These are some things that we can definitely, as a school, write a simple letter that they can provide to schools. Then the school can actually just try to support the students with this. And I think as a career dev, and specifically you trying to support us in this matter, I think this can be one of the most crucial things that any student would require if they're applying or if they're in the same process as I am. But definitely I hear you, Fhazhil, and I've been doing that as well. I've been, without exaggerating, I think I've talked to like 100 students and faculties from the US and Canada by just reaching out. So I definitely hear you, and I will also try to take the high road and communicate with the right people for this matter.
Thank you for the feedback as well. I think right now we're not in the capacity to be able to support with that because uh, just because of the nature of the processes, right? Like whether it's whenever something around transcripts, it's not something that we can access because of multiple reasons. One is there's a data privacy um, sort of like even the registrar's team is not allowed to share information around students' grades with staff members unless the student approves, for example, unless it's faculty because they already have. So there are certain issues around it, which I mean we haven't really tried to address them because it seems like a longer and a more complicated process than maybe it would appear in when you don't have the context. But definitely, I think we'll definitely see what we could do to change a few things or to support students better. Do we have any other questions or any other comments or suggestions?
Thank you for that. And one more thing, on the point that you mentioned about reaching out to alumni, I don't know. I don't have that relationship with LC students because we don't have alumni at an ALE Rwanda. So
Yeah.
that makes the process even harder. And that's why I think the support is highly needed. But I definitely hear you.
Yeah, you can also reach out to the alumni coordinator. If you reach out to Patricia or me on Hangouts, we can share her email details with you, and I'm sure she'd be able to either connect you with some specific alumnus, or alumna, or she would at least be able to let you know if you were looking for specific information. Or like, for example, do we have any ARU alumnus in, let's say, studying in, like you said, maybe the United States, and maybe then she can look up the information for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. I think let's end the meeting because we were supposed to do it only until 3:30 and we're already 3 minutes past. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask us, the career development team. We've also created Hangout groups for all of you. So if any of you are not there, please send us a message and we'll add you. We've also created a slide deck and open up office hours with specific people such as Fhazhil from the ALU community who have volunteered to mentor students in their graduate school application process. So please feel free to reach out. And again, I'd like to thank Fhazhil for his time and for sharing some wonderful strategies. We've organized another session, which will be with another mentor. It will be in November. So we'll send you we'll share information around it soon. So thank you again, everybody, for attending.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.